Hello, Fort Farmers once again. Let me just finish up this week with user interfaces. Okay, so user interfaces are part of softwares. However, they are also some part of hardware that we're going to be looking at shortly. Okay, so user interfaces are found wherever there is some type of technology, whether it's uh, your mobile device, your computer, an ATM machine, whether it's a car, whether it's a speaker that speaks by itself, okay, that responds to voice commands, whether it's a microwave, it has some sort of technology, then user interfaces exist in that as well. Okay, so however you interact or how you interact with and how you use this certain technology is controlled by something called the computer user interface, also known as the human computer interface or HCI. Basically, a user interface involves various ways of capturing or transferring data between a user and the computer or the system. Okay, so whatever me as a user wants to do in a device, it requires some sort of user-friendly interface that I can see, that I can click, that I can type for me to actually carry out my command into the computer. The interface therefore can be graphical. Okay, it can be a graphic, something visual, something that has buttons, something that I can see. It can be text based, it can be just me typing a command, or even audio video based, meaning that there are some applications that interact, for instance, by sensors. Like whenever I pass through a sensor, then some hardware activates, or whenever I'm asking my phone, hey Siri, what time it is? Okay, that interface that the software can hear my voice and do something with it, that is also an audio video based. So depending on the application, meaning that it can be a hardware interface, a software interface, or a combination of both, is referred to as user interfaces. So let's move on to what are the hardware user interface and what are the software user interfaces. So hardware user interfaces, such as touchscreens would be an example, sensors, I just mentioned it, digital cameras and special keyboards are input devices, and these devices are examples of devices that have some user interface. For instance, this controller here, it's a gaming machine, but the fact that I can hold it on my hand and I can press buttons and the buttons do a command, the interface, whatever I see in this here, this is called a hardware interface. Okay, so imagine controlling a game without a controller like this, it will be very difficult. So then, just like this, there are other hardware interfaces such as a touchscreen, digital cameras, and other types of keyboards. Okay, more than likely, hardware interfaces will be input devices. A printer will not be a hardware interface unless it has some sort of screen and buttons, then yes, it becomes hardware interface integrated into that printer. But printer that just has something for me to take out a paper that's printed, then that will not be a hardware interface. On the other hand now, software interfaces are available after the computer has booted up and the operating system has been loaded. So a software a user software, a user interface software that is not used because the computer is turned off is not a user interface as well. Okay, so allowing the user to interact with computer or device through an interface. An example here is Amazon Alexa. I know you've heard about Alexa before. It's a device that you have it at home like a speaker device, and whenever you enter your house, you can just say, Alexa, what time it is, and it's gonna tell you the time, or Alexa, play a sad song, and it's gonna find a sad song and play it, or Alexa, turn off music, and then it's gonna turn off. Okay, so I'm not pressing anything, however I'm commanding with my voice, and Alexa, the software that controls this, these are called Echo speakers. Alexa is a software that controls this Echo speaker. Okay, so whatever this Alexa software listens or hears my command, it automatically tells the hardware to do something. Okay, now this is just one basic example of user of software interfaces. There are a lot more, some that we can actually see, and these are these ones. Okay, we have command line interfaces, we have menu driven interfaces, and we also have graphical user interfaces. Let's look at the first one, command driven interface. This interface requires you to type in commands using a special language. It only uses a special language. This special language makes command line interfaces difficult to use, especially for new computer users. So if you're someone that is just starting to use a computer and I tell you, hey, open the command prompt and type these commands, you will probably not know what's happening. But someone that's knowledgeable in computer devices, they can quickly navigate through all the settings of the computer using commands on this screen. Okay, so this is an example of a command-driven interface. In recent versions of Windows, it is called Windows PowerShell, or in this case, it's called command prompt. Okay. Now the other one is menu-driven interfaces. So a menu-driven interface is an example, for instance, of an automated answering service. Like whenever you call someone, or maybe you dial the University of Belize and then you dial a number, the person is going to tell you, thank you for calling the University of Belize. If you know your extension number, press now. If you want to go to accounts, press 2. If you want to go to the secretary, press 3, etc. Okay, so these menu-driven interfaces are not only menus like this. This is an example of a menu-driven interface. It has options such as bestseller, Whole Foods, Amazon Basics, for you to order, for you to sign in, etc. So this is also a menu-driven interfaces. But apart from that, there are others that are answering command or answering devices. So a menu is a list of options from which you can choose what you want to do. Application programs use menus as an easy alternative to learning program commands. One example of a menu-driven interface for you to learn program commands would be something that's called Scratch programming. It's a programming that is used for people that are learning to program, and instead of them typing the codes, it's using different buttons from the menus. And whenever you select this button from the menu, it does this command. Menu-driven interfaces were developed to try to make the interface friendlier and easier to learn. Isn't this easier for you to navigate? Imagine if you had to use commands to navigate to the free shipping and then another command to navigate to the bestsellers. It would be very difficult for you to memorize all of these commands, and you can make a mistake as well. So then menu-driven interfaces are very, very helpful. Menu-driven interfaces can also be verbal rather than visual. The first example that I told you, it can be like an automated answering service. Whenever you call a certain business, it brings an automated calling service that tells you press 1 if you want to go here, press 2 if you want to go here, press 3 if you want to go to this other department. Those are also menu-driven interfaces. So menu-driven interfaces are not only something that we can see like this example here, but it can also be something that we cannot see, that we're following up based on a voice command that we're listening to, or an automated voice command. The other example now is graphical user interfaces, also known as GUI. So all computers now are supplied with something that's a graphic user interface. Regardless of the type of computer that you're using, whether it's one of the old computers, the recent computers, the old phones, the new phones, they have some sort of user interface. Now this is called graphics. And the main features of a graphics user interface, just like this is a graphic user interface, is that it's easy to use for beginners. So if someone that is not fully aware of how a computer works, the moment they turn on the computer and this screen pops up, they can see, oh, look, if I click here, it's going to take me to music. If I click here, it's going to take me to the store. If I click here, it's going to tell me to power off, etc. So the main features are very easy for users to use, okay? And within this, I can hold this recycle bin, I can drag it and place it here. If there was another folder here, I can move this folder and put it inside another folder, or I can delete a folder, etc. So graphical user interface. Now, graphical user interfaces now, class, they are made up of four components, which are windows, icons, menus, and pointers. So whenever there's a graphical user interfaces, these four components need to exist. Okay, they need to exist for something to be a graphical user interface. This is known as web. So the first one, windows, very simple. So a window is a part of the screen that holds its own document or messages like this one. See how many windows are open here? These are all windows. One window, two window, three window. There was another window opening here. So a window can take up the entire space of the screen, and if you click here, it's gonna maximize, or if you click here, it's going to maximize, or if you click here, it's going to close. So this is a windows, part of a graphical user interface. The other one are icons. So these are all icons, okay? An icon is a tiny picture of an object that is displayed on a screen. Whenever you click somewhere and it has a little picture, you're clicking on an icon that's gonna take you somewhere else. So instead of having to remember commands, as I mentioned before, you can, as soon as you see an icon, you click on it, it's gonna take you somewhere. Okay, icons are not only programs. For instance, this here looks like a program. Okay, if I click here, it's gonna open a program, but it can also take me to a folder. It can also take me to a location inside. It can also take me to a file. Okay. The other option are menus, and the two main common examples of menus are pull down menus or pop up menus. Very simple. Okay, so for instance, for me to reach to this menu here, I had to right click on with my mouse, and then I would have these options. They are activated by clicking on the menu item using the left mouse button. The menu pulls down then just below the menu item, and you can scroll to different options here. Pop-up menus are activated by clicking anywhere in the document. Okay, so for instance, if I am using Microsoft Word, let's say for instance, and I want to select this portion of paragraph, I select that portion of paragraph, I right click on top of it, it's gonna pop up some menus. Okay, so this is an example of pull down menu, and pop-up menus are used in applications. The other one is pointers. Okay, this is the last one. Pointers. Pointers, as the mouse is moved, a pointer moves around the screen, and the beautiful thing today is that you see how that laser on the screen right now, that's my pointer, but there was an option that I selected that I can change that pointer. Instead of showing like this, I can select it as a laser format. So the pointer is a very important part of a GUI, as it enables you to control the computer and to choose window items. So it practically, this here is what allows me to reach all the way that I am right now. Imagine creating a PowerPoint, uploading a PowerPoint, recording a PowerPoint without the use of a pointer. It would be very, very difficult. So pointers are very important. Okay. All right. So based on what we discussed right now, I want you guys to go to activity software 2.3 and answer the questions that are here. Answer them to the best of your ability, and I'll be uploading a quiz by the end of this week or early next week for you guys to complete during the week. Okay, so be on the lookout for that, and thank you and have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you all soon.